And I think civil society needs to be commended in the work around trying to create awareness. Awareness first is key on the various laws that you have. But at the level of the grassroots, work is still ongoing by various organizations interpreting the various laws in local languages, radio and all of that, so that people at that level are very aware of these issues. But that is not to say that there is no room to do more. We need that continued engagement. What we say is that it's a battle that we have to be consistent with, so that each and every one of us in Nigeria can be adequately informed. You and I that are seated here comfortably in Abuja, and then my grandmother that is somewhere at the village can actually, if her rights have been violated, she knows the mechanism, the platforms, the institutions, to approach. So I speak as a civil society person that it's our duty to continue to be consistent, in pushing for advocacy to the various actors. We are having continuous engagement with the government stakeholders. Just 2 days back, we had a capacity building workshop to enable us try to prepare a draft, and that engagement also involved selected government agencies. Tonight we're planning to have a stakeholders advocacy dinner that is targeted at key government agencies, sort of appealing to them that despite the fact that we haven't submitted our report, there are some progress that have been made in terms of legislation that has been passed. We talk about the ACJA, we talk about the anti-torture, but that you still have rights violation, you still have a high degree of torture. What steps are you taking, to ensure that these vices or these crimes are reduced or brought to the lowest or barest minimum? So what is to the CAT, the Convention Against Torture. Each entity, the state, the Nigerian state, NHRC and civil society are respectively tasked to submit their independent report. It's the absence of the Nigerian report. That is why civil society like us and Power were approached to say, okay, develop an alternative report. And I think that this is not a new thing. Sometimes if the international community wants to know a state of something, they come to civil society to say, develop shadow reports. Let's have a sense of what is happening on the ground. I think that it's a battle or a fight that we'll have to continue working on, in that even when we push out the reports in our respective organization, by virtue of our mandate at CLEAN, in the discharge of public safety, in the promotion of public safety and security, that we will continue to follow up, we will continue to raise the issues. Torture that is happening in private spaces, torture that is happening in public spaces, and the security threats that you have that have sort of complicated the state of torture in Nigeria. So on our path is to urge the government to undertake its obligations.
I think this is an area that there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done. Some institutions or security agencies have introduced human rights training, but yes, we need to have more of that. So you have, for example, the Nigerian Police Force, where we have the Nigerian Police Force Human Rights Training Manuals, Nigerian Police Force Human Rights Trainers Guides, Nigerian Police Force Human Rights Pocket Handbook. We have other institutions. But it's not just this. We must ensure that even when we train, that this training that we're doing, that behaviors are also changing. So part of what makes people stop a behavior is when there is certainty that once they violate, that something will happen to them. It is a certainty of being apprehended when you violate these rights. It is a certainty that when you are apprehended, that you will be tried, and that when you are tried, that you will be found guilty, and that you will be sanctioned. But if you think that the system is such that it does, there's a loophole, you can get your way around it, then it will continue. And this is why we say we must say no to impunity. No to impunity. So how many look at these processes? Good thing we have the panels set up, but we have to make sure that it doesn't really die prematurely. You follow through that process and make sure that every case, because even having the panel that victims can open up and talk is empowering in itself. And I would think that these panels should not be just a one-off. We must have a way of institutionalizing this process to make sure that everyone, every victim, no matter one victim, It doesn't matter whether it's a victim that has been physically or psychologically tortured or traumatized, that you must find a way to tell the person, because before then, they will tell you, I'll kill you, I'll do this, nothing will come out of it. We must make sure that doesn't continue. And that's why as a nation, we say, let everybody put our hands together to make sure that the needful is done, to make sure that there are trainings done, to make sure that processes that for institutions that are policing, including institutions that have security agencies, are truly ensured to put checks and balances. Again, no single agency in Nigeria, no single individual, doesn't matter, not even the president, not even any minister, knows the total number of persons in detention in all the places of detention in Nigeria. And that's not good. If you do not know, how then do you plan? How then do you ensure that oversight is kept? So we are saying that we should make sure that we have a centralized database of every detention institution, of everybody who is detained there. At a touch of a hand, you can be able to know who is where. And there must be oversight mechanisms that are very articulate, that can visit all these places of detention. And we have some of these laws, but some of them are not fully implemented. My name is Uju Agamo. I am the Executive Director of Prisoners Rehabilitation and Welfare Action Proud.
Okay, so can you throw more light on what we are here for?
Okay, what we are doing here today is to brainstorm on how far we have moved in terms of Nigeria in relation to meeting the obligations as well as implementing the provisions that are contained in the United Nations Convention against torture, cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment and punishment. That instrument Nigeria has signed, Nigeria has ratified, and that's been a long time ago. And since 20 years, since Nigeria signed and ratified, we have not sent report. And that report is supposed to be a report saying, this is how far we are doing and this is the issues that we need to address. So Nigeria is going to be reviewed in November, which is a very good opportunity for Nigeria to say, okay, we have done X, Y, Z, because there are certain areas that Nigeria has got well, but then there's still a lot of areas that we need to work on and improve as a nation. So what we are doing here is to bring civil society organizations together to look at that document, look at all the issues that we want to ensure that they are contained in the report that civil society organizations are supposed to submit. Remember, there are 3 reports that are required. One from the government of Nigeria, which we hope that the Federal Ministry of Justice will lead on, another one from the National Human Rights Commission, and then the third from the civil society organizations. So today, we were doing about drafting some of the content. There will be also other steps that will enable us to review and validate the content of the report from the civil society. There's still a lot of work there for us to do as a nation. So you have the fact that in terms of having laws that frown on some of these issues, we do have it. We have the Constitution that says we should treat people humanly. We have the Constitution that says nobody should be tortured. Yeah. We have the Constitution that says that nobody should be arbitrarily detained. We have a Constitution that says nobody should be kept beyond 48 hours after you have detained the person before you take the person to court, and all the rest of that. So we have all that. But the issue is, how do we ensure that these laws are being implemented? As you mentioned, so in 2017, Nigeria passed the Anti-Torture Act. But many of the law enforcement agencies and security agencies are not even aware about the existence of this act. And yet that act is saying that if you are found to torture somebody, that you can receive up to 25 years imprisonment. It also says that if somebody is dead through that process, that you will also face the consequence of being treated as murder under criminal law. So we also need to begin to look at these issues. So why will people be arbitrarily detained? Why will people be arbitrarily arrested? Why will people be tortured through a process of investigation? Because the same act, the same convention is saying that even if you collect evidence, but this evidence is collected through torture, that it should not be admissible. Our Evidence Act supports that, but yet it's still happening. Okay, so there's quite a lot of things that we need to be able to begin to deal with clearly. It clearly stipulates what needs to be done to ensure that there is no systemic process where people are tortured. And then if you are tortured, that you have a process to redress. Thank God we have the National Human Rights Commission. Thank God we have the courts. But what is the speed of dispensing this justice? How many people who are found to have tortured have actually been fully prosecuted and, found guilty and sanctioned? So these are some of the issues that we're thinking that as we begin to reflect on it, we can now see where are the good aspects. Now look at, for example, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. It clearly says that if you are trying to collect, investigate or interrogate somebody, you must be able to do what? Record it. You must have the lawyer present. Is this widely applied? So these are some of the issues. So I would say to you, there are areas of progress, especially in terms of enactment of some of these laws. But there are also quite a lot of areas where we can begin to work towards to make sure that we deal with this issue and put a stop to it.
Okay.
So this program is a meeting of civil society organizations working on the issue of torture, a gathering to think of the situation of the fight against torture in Nigeria, in order to report to the Committee Against Torture during the upcoming review of Nigeria that has ratified the convention 20 years ago, but is missing submitting its initial report. So our role is to make sure that as CSOs, we report on what we have seen, what we have done with the state or without the state, and that at least there is an objective perspective of what is happening in the country or what has happened in the last 20 years.